Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. I am excited to be here. Just excited to share in this time. It's 3 a.m. on a Monday morning, and we are seizing the day. This is absolutely the day that the Father has made, and we rejoice. We will rejoice, and we will be glad in it. You know why we can rejoice and why we can be glad in it is because we know the thoughts that our Father has towards us. They are thoughts of good and not of evil, to give us a good and expected end. He created the day for us. And so in the day, we are going to find all kinds of jewels and gems in the day. And this is why we're starting out the day. I believe that any son should identify and understand the fact that the beginning of a day is the evening and the morning. So before you even close your eyes at night, when that sun has gone down, you need to begin to seize the day. You need to begin to step into your new in the right way, not waiting for the next day to happen to you, but you happen to the day. You happen to the day. I'm excited to be here with you. We were talking about a couple of videos ago. Have you introduced yourself to the earth? Come on now. Have you introduced yourself to the earth? Does the earth know you? Does the land know you? Does the waters know you? Because these are things that we were given dominion over. Do the airwaves know you? Do the creatures in the earth know you? Does any of creation know who you are in this season? I'm telling you, you're going to need to be known. You're going to need to be known. And I believe that these times that the Father calls us to are very imperative times for us to get the information that we need. Not only to get the information that we need, but to show forth some consistency in the relationship, to show forth the fact that, yes, we want to be in this space. Yes, I want to be in connection with the Father. Yes, whatever time He calls me, I could just put aside anything that I'm doing to identify with what He wants in that moment. I can put what I desire, how I feel, what I want to do to the side to identify what is He desiring, what is He doing. You know, a lot of times people spend a lot of times praying and asking the Father to do something for them when they've never done anything for Him. The truth of the matter is, where the blessing lies is wherever He resides. Wherever He resides is where the blessing lies. So we don't have to ask Him to bless what we're doing. We need to identify what He's already blessed, what He's already doing, and we need to get in that move. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. You guys forgive me, my representation here on my photo is saying that it's week 6, but I'm going to fix that right now because that's not what we're doing. We're not doing week 6, we're doing week 7. So let me fix that right now because I don't want people to be confused when they look at the video and that's the representation that they see. We don't want people to be confused, you know? So we need to fix that. Let's fix that right now. Listen, while I am fixing that, I want to start out tonight just sharing a video with you guys. We're going to have some conversations tonight about divine jurisdiction and jurisprudence. I believe what the Father desires us to do is to remember and to return. There's a space, there's a place that we were originally and authentically formed in and formed for. And a lot of us are gone so far from that place. And the Father wants to call His sons back to a place. In the meantime, I'm gonna fix this thing, but I want to share something with you because a lot of times we're thinking that is just one-offs. It's okay, if I do this, then I'm okay. Okay, if I do that, then I'm okay. And what I'm telling you is that there is a collaborative collection of things that we do as sons as a result of our relationship with the Father. It's not just if I just go here or if I just do this or if I just say this. We've been talking about kinetic prayer. And what is that? Kinetic prayer is a mature place. It's the place that leaves potential and begins to move in a place. It begins to move and gain momentum. That way, when this object or this body of words, this body of prayer comes into contact with whatever it needs to come into contact with, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to transfer its power to the next thing so that that thing will begin to move and pick up momentum and replicate itself, or it's going to make such an impact that it stops something. That it intercepts something. It's going to stop something else from moving. And so this is why this is so important, because long gone are the days when we can afford to hit and miss in prayer. Long gone are those days. But the reality is, in order for us not to hit and miss in prayer, we have to understand not just the object of prayer, but the theory behind it. We have to identify that theory. It's like, I use this example all the time, but because I'm musical, it's the best example that I think is to explain this dynamic. The truth of the matter is, in music, there's a difference between a person that plays by ear and a person that understands theory. They might most definitely both be talented. Okay, we're not taking anything away from one or the other. There is talent there. Okay, there is ability there. However, where ability and talent separate and go into a space of excellence is when theory is involved. Because when I have the theory of what I'm doing, when I'm not just gifted to do something, when I'm not just gifted to sing, when I'm not just gifted to play my instrument, I'm not just doing what I do just by my gifting, but now I have an information that activates me in another way. It allows me to expand my borders. It allows me to go to different horizons. Why? Because I now know the theory. So I now know that I don't have the boundaries that I had just in my gift. I'm not limited to the gifting boundary. Now I have theory, which allows me another space. It allows me more space. It's kind of like expanding my tent now, because I have more things. I have more access, right? And so this is the difference between just professional prayers. It's a lot of professional prayers going on in the earth. And I'm telling you right now, if those were working, then darkness would still be doing what it's doing. I want you to hear me very clearly, because it is set for darkness to do what it is doing. The master told the disciples, he said, listen, all these things must be, then the end will come. But here's what I want to say to you. If the things that we've been doing in the past, if the general collaborative identification on what prayer is was the working and running thing, then the sons would be in a different position. People at large would be in a different position, because they would have a different understanding of things. We wouldn't just have to hit and miss at things. We would be able to hit the mark every time. Can I tell you something? When you go out, if a hunter goes out to hunt, and it's a matter of them, a matter of their survival in order to live day to day, in order for their family to live day to day, they need to be able to hunt. They can't hit and miss. They have to go and they have to practice. They have to have practice in order to go out and hit a target. I'm telling you that what the Father is calling us into is this space where we understand that we just don't do these things just because it just sounds good. We don't just do these things just because it seems like the right thing to do. We do these things because we understand the authority. We understand the mark. Did you hear what I said? Not only do we understand our authority in the matter, but we understand the mark. That's a part of where prayer points and those kind of things come from. But you got to understand your enemy. You got to understand your enemy. And then when you understand your enemy, you must know how to engage. And we've been talking about a variety of different things, right? We've been talking about weapons. We talked a little bit about weapons. We talked about the blood weapon. We talked about the weapon of winds a little bit. We didn't go too far into that, and we're going to get into that. I don't know if I'll make it into that in this 8-week situation, but I know on the other side of this, we will definitely have some conversations about some things, because some things are just too big for this environment. Some things are too big for this live environment. And there are times when we're going to have to go in and out of private settings in order to actually do what we're called to do, because everything is not for everybody. That's the other thing about your enemy. You got to know what you're going to show. You got to be very selective about what you show your enemy, because understand, there are all kinds of meetings, all kind of clandestine meetings, and all kinds of spaces and places, all kind of agencies and alphabets and all kinds of things that are connected, but they have their real meetings. They have them in a clandestine place. They don't have them out in the open like what we're doing. When they do have a meeting that's out in the open, they have made encrypted. They made cryptic all of their conversations. I want to say encrypted. Thank you, Holy Spirit. They have encrypted all of their conversations. So even though they're saying what they're saying out loud, If you have not studied, if you are not aware, one, you probably are not even looking for them, right? Because you're not aware that these things are happening. We're going to look at some things tonight. And then secondarily, after you're hearing them speak, because you're not familiar with the terminology, that's the key right there. Because you're not familiar with the terminology that they're speaking, then you don't have the capacity to comprehend. So it goes over your head. You understand what I'm saying? So if the thing goes over your head and you don't have the capacity or the comprehension to exact what they're saying, then it's not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal to you. But I want you to know that the Father not only wants you to have the capacity, but he wants you to have the comprehension. He wants you to understand languages. And when I say languages, I'm not just talking about French, English, Spanish. No. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about understanding the languages of the age. Okay? You need to know the conversation of your enemy. The Father allows us to have access to those kinds of things. And you see it written throughout the scripture where an enemy's conversation was overheard. And in that enemy's conversation being overheard, it solidified the positioning of sons. So let me go back to something I was saying. When we come into the authentic position and the mature position as it pertains to prayer, it's not that the enemy won't be able to do what he's doing in the earth. Now, he will definitely be stopped from doing some of the things that he's doing to you and those around you, to us as sons of Yah, because we've understood our authority. And now that we understand our authority, some things we're just not going for. We're just not going to just lay down and take it, right? But the things that happen in the environment around us, the Bible talks about in Psalm 91, he said, 1,000 shall fall at my hand, at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it won't come nigh my dwelling. In other words, there are some things that are going to take place. There are some things that are going to happen. It's just not happening to me. Hello? It's just not happening to me. And so this is what we need to understand in this hour. What the Father is doing, what he's saying, what he's authorized us to do, and what he's authorizing us to say, because we have to imitate what he's doing and what he's saying. That's what the Master exemplified before us. He said, I do nothing but what I hear my Father, I do nothing but what I see my Father doing. And it is him that gives me both what to say and speak. He commands me what I should say and what I should speak. And so you know what that means? That means that we can't get in our own way. We can't get in a way where we are considering the way that we do things. It's been a lot of that kind of disruption in my life in this season as a leader. Sure, I have always had very planned out situations for things. However, the Father's like, he's really just interrupting that. He's saying, no, I don't want you to get in a mode. You know, and we could get there. We could get in a space of truth. And when we get that truth, when we get more access to truth, we turn that into an altar. We make that the only thing. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of things that are going on in the earth. A lot of knowledge has increased. We're getting access to things. But what I want you to be very mindful of is that when you get access to something, that you don't just begin to make that a God. You don't make that an idol. You don't put that in a place where, okay, I've arrived at something and I don't need to go any further than this. It's not the truth. We are going beyond the fact that we now understand we're not the church, we're the ecclesia. We're going beyond the fact now that we know that we are sons of Yah, and that means that we have to step into some spaces and places. We've got to go beyond the places that we're entering into in order to see the fulfillment, in order to see the fullness of what the Father's talking to. It's all of those things connected. It's all of them connected that makes us powerful. It's all of those things connected, not just one thing. You know, there's a mindset. I was dealing with this yesterday. There's a mindset with church people. They feel like, well, if I made it to service on Sunday and I make it to Bible study on Wednesday, then my duty is done. And I'm telling you, that's your church duty, but that ain't got nothing to do with the kingdom. No, the kingdom must advance. And that looks like something. That looks like something that a lot of people have not even seen nor even fathomed. It looks like something that people have not even got an imagination about in their mind, because it's going to require so much from them in order to execute the kingdom. It's going to require unity to execute the kingdom. It's going to require love to execute the kingdom. And some of these things I'm mentioning to you don't have to happen in church. They don't normally happen in church, honestly. Okay, we like to say that that's a place and that's a space, but it doesn't normally happen in those spaces. But in the kingdom, it's not an option. Having all things common is not an option in the kingdom. It's an option in church because there are people that like to be lords over people. So what I have, you have to attain to this thing. No, this is what the kingdom is about. The master showed us this as well. He said, listen, I've come that you might have life. In other words, when you get a hold of this life that I've come for, and I want you to take it even further, because even greater works, you're going to do the greater works. You're not going to just do the works that I did, but you're going to do greater works than what I did. In church, this hierarchical situation that they've got going on, leaders don't want you to go past them. They don't want you to go further than them. So they will not give you what they have so that you can grow. They won't give you that so that you can know something and grow from something. When I say this, I'm not saying that they can just hand it over to you. No, they can expose you to something that you now have to go and dig out. You now have to go and get the revelation of that for yourself. That's the Bereans. They would search out. What is Paul talking about? What is he saying? Let me go dig that out for myself, because it doesn't just need to be his revelation. I believe he's got that from the Father. I believe heaven has spoken, but now I need to grab a hold of what heaven has said, and I need to unpack it. I need to unpack it. So let me share this clip with you. I'm going to share this clip with you, and then I'm going to come back because I need to change this picture to week 7 for sure. I'm going to change the picture while I'm sharing this thing with you, okay? We'll be right back. I'm going to share this and be right back. How do I want to do this? Let me see.
Leaving him to deal with damage.
Millions of flightless insects known as Mormon crickets have now descended on swaths of Nevada.
This is definitely going to bother some of you guys out there. Some of you are thinking, if it gets that bad, I'm going to grow my own food. I can plant my own garden, be self-sufficient if it comes to that. Even though in some areas it's no longer allowed. Well, what if you do lean on that option? I'll grow my own food. Self-sufficiency, emergency preparedness. Well, what if your garden gets poisoned, taken out by air? What if something gets released that takes care of all the crops out there? What if I told you both scenarios might already be happening? Like I said, this is gonna make some of you guys upset. Important information you should know coming right up. If you guys are brand new here, welcome to our awesome community where we do prepping tips, emergency preparedness how-tos, and we go over news and awareness, stuff you should know about. If you happen to find value in that, be sure to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date. Let's jump into this one. So no joke, this might already be happening. What if you did what a lot of us want to do, grow a huge garden, be feeling great about it? Finally, self-sufficiency, growing your own food, probably heirloom seeds, none of that GMO stuff, getting a little bit closer to off-grid. Well, for some of you out there, this is already happening. And what comes next may also already be happening. One of our community members sent me this news article of a small farmer with a garden like you and I, and it happened to him. His entire garden, probably acres of garden, selling those sought out, wholesome vegetables and fruits that we all want, that doesn't have any of those additives that we're seeing these days. Could have the unthinkable happened to this guy? Entire crop poisoned? You're not gonna believe it. Wait till I show you this. One of two things that are going on right now.
This is Oklahoma's own News 9.
What I was so proud of just a day ago is now hard to even show people.
Devastation tonight for a farmer near Jones who says that someone poisoned his plants, leaving him to deal with damage.
Jim Garner and Bob Milsky, News 9, shows us the devastation from the air. Field after field at Ruzicki Farms filled with dying plants, all of which were growing chemical-free produce.
Did you guys hear that part? Chemically free produce. That's what we're after these days. We don't want any of those special additives. We want wholesome, chemical-free. Well, what's happening to some of us that are going down that route and helping others with this stuff?
Right now, police are investigating, and Michael Ruzicki is figuring out how to start over, but he is not giving up. News 9 photojournalist Jorge Gil shares his story.
I was devastated. Fear, for one. How am I supposed to pay my bills? How am I supposed to feed my customers? This morning, around 6 o'clock, and started to notice a few plants that just didn't look right. And I started to look around a little bit more to the farm and noticed more and more plants that had looked like they were sprayed with some sort of herbicide.
Now this just may be interesting to some of you, but for some of you out there, grow gardens. And you know how hard that would hit you. You spent probably last fall getting ready for this, all spring cultivating and growing.
More and more plants that had looked like they were sprayed with some sort of herbicide.
Now this just may be interesting to some of you, but for some of you out there, grow gardens. And you know how hard that would hit you. You spent probably last fall getting ready for this, all spring cultivating and growing your crops, babying your plants, growing them up. It turns into a personal thing and touches home. Those of you that know that feeling and waking up to see what looks like your entire crop getting poisoned, that's a devastating feeling.
It hurts. It makes me feel angry. I'm sad. I'm sad that somebody could do this, not only to me, but to so many other people.
All right. So I shared that clip with you because one of the things that's really important for us to understand is strategy in this hour. And there was a season when we were talking about planting. There was a season when we were talking about raised bed gardens and outside and all of those things. But now the strategy changes. So now this is the beauty of coming together as sons of Yah. The beauty of coming together as sons of Yah is that we come together. The word talks about every joint supplying, right? Every part being fitly joined. That fitly joined together deals with the fact that we have, apart from each other, been in his presence. Ephesians chapter 4. Apart from each other, we've been in his presence. So when we come together, Ephesians 4:16 is where you'll find that when we come together, the whole body fitly joins and is compacted. That means there's no space in between us, okay? It means we're connected properly. Every joint is going to supply something, okay? According to the effectual working, listen, in the measure of every part. So to the capacity that each part is supposed to be working, that's what it's bringing to the table. It's bringing that to the table so that every joint is receiving something of the other. And as a collective body of joints, we are animated in the way that we need to be animated. I want to throw this out there really quickly. Let me pull that up before I go any further. I'm going to pull this up because I want you guys to see something that we're working on in this season. And some of you leaders that may be watching this, because I know quite a few people watch, and I want to share this with you guys. We're going to be launching something called leadership sessions. And the leadership sessions, I believe, are going to be a blessing to so many people. Let's look at this. Leadership sessions. Leadership sessions. You guys can see that? I thought that was going to do something else, but that's okay. Leadership sessions. I pray that you can see that. he began to share, listen, we've got to go back to the garden. We've got to go back to the garden. What happened in the garden space? What happened in the garden space, it was, if I'm talking, you can't hear me. Okay, let me make sure that this is not too loud. Let me make sure that that's not too loud. I pray that that wasn't too loud, because that's why I have to have technical people on deck. Because what we're not going to do is that, okay? Give me a second, 1 second. All right, so I understand what you were saying now, Elder. When I was putting this thing in the room, you guys couldn't hear me anymore. Is that what you're telling me? Can you hear me now? Let me know that you can hear me now. Let me know if you can hear me, because I want to read this to you. Okay. Let me know that you can hear me. Okay, awesome. All right, in an effort to move everything else out of the way, yeah, we had an issue there, a little glitch. So I'll move this out of the way so you guys can see the flyer. And I'm keeping an eye on my mute button over there, because that seems to become a problem. Okay, so I wanted to share with you this whole leadership concept. And I want to announce this thing as what we're doing. 9983 in Hebrew calendar, but 23 in the Gregorian calendar. I want to talk about this just for a minute, because as we were looking at the clip that we just looked at, it's very important to identify and understand that as believers, strategy is necessary for the hour that we're living in. If you don't understand that strategy is necessary for the hour that we're living in, then you're already lost. If you don't understand that, then you're already lost. Then they've already got you. Yeah, I saw that. Then they already got you. Who is they? Darkness already has you if you don't understand the necessity for strategy. All right? There's a necessity for strategy, and that strategy that is needful right now is coming from the sons of Yah. The sons have to come together. And we have to begin to strategize, not us in our own little spaces, okay? Because a lot of people are so lost because they're trying to do this thing by themselves. I have felt like Elijah in other seasons, but in this season of maturity, I realize I'm not the only one, right? There are seasons that we go through as leaders because we have not found tribe. We have not found people that are part of our kingdom tribe. When I say kingdom tribe, I'm not talking about factions, because even though Israel had tribes, they were still one unit. I'm talking about the unit right now. When I say tribe, I'm talking about the unit as a whole. And so because we have not found the unit, let's say unit, I'm going to use unit. Because we have not found the unit, then we are often, I don't even know what the word is. We're often put at a disadvantage, okay? Because we have vision, and we have things that the Father has given us, but where do we begin to launch that? Where do we begin to share it? It's not going to happen in the church. I'm telling you right now, I have attempted over the years to launch many things that had they launched in that season, we would already be in position in this season. Had they heard what I said in the season I was saying it, then we would already be ahead of the curve. We would already be ahead of all the strategies of darkness that have already been forming, because those strategies have been forming over time. But when the Father begins to give a prophet or an apostle or a leader something, any kingdom leader that he wants to use as a mouthpiece in an environment, when he begins to give that conversation to that leader, and they begin as his mouthpiece in the earth to begin to talk to the people, whether individually or whether collectively. When they begin to release that thing, if you don't have a respect for the word of Yah, if you don't have a respect for his people or for the people that he's chosen, then you'll ignore it. And then by the time you come to that space, it's almost too late. It's often too late. Now there needs to be another strategy. Strategies happen for seasons. Strategies are seasonal. So let me give you an example of seasonal strategies. As we're looking at leadership sessions, this is a kingdom tabletop strategy for 83 through 87, which means a 4-year period. The Father wants to have a conversation about the next 4 years. We've got to communicate some things before this golden date that darkness wants to unveil some things on a deeper level, 2030. We've got to deal with the strategies that heaven is declaring to us, so that as this man has experienced this crop failure, right? If he is a believer or was a believer, he would understand that regardless of the fact that these crops have failed, the Father will still provide a way. And so he would have already been putting himself in a position. See, when these kinds of things happen, and they will in certain areas. Now, I know particularly that those kind of things don't happen to the crops of believers. Okay, let me tell you why. Because what was happening in Egypt wasn't happening in Goshen. Okay, that's just not how it works. Isaac was able to plant in a famine. In other words, there was no water originally there. There was no water. Now remember, he went and he undug all of his father's wells. This was the instruction that was given to him. He didn't go the way of his father. His father went to Egypt during the famine. Matter of fact, I heard this word and it was so powerful. Brought some things to clarity for me, because I had never thought about it this way. That Abraham, remember, Abraham actually did arrive in the land of promise. But he didn't know he had arrived there. You know why he didn't know he arrived there? Because it wasn't nothing there. It wasn't like it was by the time the children of Israel had arrived at a place where all of the ites were squatting, where the Amalekites and all of the Canaanites and all of those, where all those ites were squatting. The land was flowing with milk and honey by then. When Abraham showed up in the land that was promised, there was nothing there. Are you listening to me? There was nothing there. It was barren. So he passed by it, went into Egypt because there was a famine in that land. That's famished, right? He goes into Egypt, but there's a word here. He didn't realize that he actually got to the promised place. He didn't, because sometimes when we're looking at promise, we're looking for everything to be already flourishing and fat, okay? We're looking for things to be working a certain way. And if they don't work a certain way, then we need to leave that space and go to the next space where there is provision. You understand what I'm saying? Remember, this is what Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi's husband, took them out of the land of plenty and took them into Moab, because the land of plenty was suffering some things. And we've seen this happen several times, where there was a suffering or a famine in the land and people came out of that space. Even with Joseph's brothers, they came out of the place of promise and went into Egypt. Okay, but here's the thing. If they had remembered that the Father, see, this is why he had to set Joseph up. In that case, he had to set Joseph up because he knew that they wouldn't get what had happened in the past. See, and that's a lot of times what we don't remember is what happened previously. I tell you that time is not linear, it's cyclical. So if we look at the cycles of things, then we can begin to step into some different dimensions, some new beginnings, right? So here's the thing. They didn't look at the fact that with Isaac or Yitzchak, that the Father told him to stay in the land. There were already wells there. So I don't even know what the wells were looking like. Well, I do know kind of sort of what some of the wells were looking like, because they threw Joseph in a pit, which was a water well, which was empty. Okay. Nobody thought to dig wells. Nobody thought about that. But that's what Yitzchak did. Abraham's son, the Father told him, don't leave here I want you to stay here. And he gave him explicit instructions on what to do. And when he followed those explicit instructions, which I believe he absolutely, he reopened all of the wells. And then his people actually found a 7-headed whale because they kept going. Remember, greater works. He went beyond what his father did. They kept digging and they found a 7-headed whale. So what I believe happened in that moment is that Isaac began to establish irrigation systems in the land. He began to establish irrigation systems. They weren't going from the well to the land and watering all those crops. No, he established something in that land. And when he began to follow the explicit instructions of the Father concerning that land, it set up something. It set up something that caused that land to flourish even in a time of famine. So I'm telling you, the famine is going to come. Things are going to happen in the earth, but we've got to come together and we've got to strategize, because we cannot wait until the war is apparent. There is war now. Understand this. There is war now. There are all kinds of secret wars, subtle wars that are happening all around us every day. Even digital wars are happening. Even frequency wars are happening. We've been talking about the 5 and the G. The 5 and the generation for a long time. Now they're talking about the 10 and the generation, right? You know what I'm talking about. Just take the first letter of the word generation and you'll know exactly what I'm saying. Technology is advancing, but people that are saying they're part of the kingdom are stuck in church systems, and systemic issues are arising that are preventing the advancement of the kingdom. So we cannot wait until the war is apparent, because you'll be unprepared. We will be unprepared like the 5 foolish virgins. We've got to join forces. We've got to come to the table so that we can receive and execute divine instructions from our Father that's going to prevent our destruction and the destruction of our generations. Okay? We got to count up the cost, because we've got to come into this place in this age as sons of occupation. The Father said, listen, I need you guys to arise in your occupation. What does the sonship occupation look like? I told the people of y'all this morning, I said, listen, we've got to get back to the garden. We've got to get back to the garden. We cannot afford not to go back to the original way it was. The master came to make sure that we would have access to that garden place again. And many of us are simply getting stuck in all of these other offerings, all of these other ideas, but we're not going back to the garden. That was our original placement. That was the Father's original idea for mankind, that we would be put down in a place where all of our needs were supplied, where everything we needed would be there. We're going to have some conversations in the coming future, and even in this leadership session and these leadership sessions about economics and all kinds of different things. We're going to discuss the difference between wealth, riches, and money. Those things are necessary. Understand, money is a tool, and it's necessary to use tools in a space where that tool needs to be used. All right, you remember the conversation the master had when they came and talked to him about the taxes, and he told his people, he said, let me see. Well, this at this point, he was talking to Peter when he had him go pay the taxes, but he was talking to those non-believers and those that were trying to catch him up on something when they were asking him about taxes. And he said, let me see the money. Let me see what's in your hands. Show me that. And he said, well, whose inscription is this? Like, in other words, whose face is this on this coin? And they said, Caesar's. And he said, well, render to Caesar's what's Caesar's, and unto Yah what's Yah's. That's the kind of stuff we got to unpack in this hour. We got to know what's whose. We got to know what belongs to the Father and what belongs to Caesar. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So if you're a leader that's not interested in mere social gatherings or services, but you understand that there's an eternal space that the Father's calling us to, that there are pragmatic solutions concerning us as sons of Yah and those that we have influence over, then I want to connect with you. If you're interested in fulfilling the divine occupation as heaven's counsel or viceroys in the earth, now is the time. We're not waiting on the next global shock. If we wait, we will be shocked. But if we come forth, then the world will be shocked. You understand what I'm saying? And we will be that light that men can run to. We'll be that light that men can run to. So I'm going to be putting some things out even on our YouTube channel I'll be putting some things in a position where people can actually get access to what we're going to be doing with these leadership sessions. I believe we're going to have them every month. In the month, out of the month, we're going to have that one session, and it's going to be powerful. It's going to be some hours. Y'all know I teach by myself for hours, but this is going to be like almost like a whole day thing for real. So we're going to have to find a day. It's probably going to be on a weekend, probably going to be on a Saturday or something like that. And it's going to be like an all-day thing because we got a lot to delve into. We got a lot to dig into. We've got to prepare. We cannot be unprepared in this hour. The Father's not calling us to individually bear this weight or bear this alone. I felt like Elijah in seasons, but it was just simply because I didn't know where my unit was. I hadn't found my unit yet. When I say unit, I'm talking about the rest of the sons that are like me, the rest of the leaders that are like me, that see what I see, that understand what I understand. I'm now identifying some leaders that have that same capacity in this hour, and I want to invite them to the table so that we can collectively bring all of our resources together to advance the kingdom for the sake of the sons in this season. All right. So I wanted to share that with you. Be looking for that. I believe it's going to really be imperative that we come to the table in this season and do the work. This is a part of the work. It's a part of the work, and not many people want to do this. This doesn't have anything to do with our Sunday services. This doesn't have anything to do with Bible study. This doesn't have anything to do with all of those systemic things that are done that people think, oh, I've accomplished whatever I was supposed to do for the week. That's already done. No, this is bigger than that. The kingdom is bigger than that. The responsibility of sons is bigger than that. And so even this 3 o'clock hour, even this 3 a.m. hour, I noticed that when we were in a different position, when I had people coming on a line where I could physically see them, right? They were all on the line, right? And now that we've moved to this platform, then people are like, oh, well, I'll watch the replay, right? Oh, well, I'll watch it later. Or I'm gonna sleep and then I'll jump up and I'll catch the end and all of those kind of things. I'm telling you, this is the sad part about where people are in their heart and in their mind. This is the sad part. Because the thing you put off today is going to be the thing that you need tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying? The thing that you put off today is going to be the thing that you need tomorrow. Why do you want to wait until you need what you need when you had what you need? Why do you want to wait until there's a dire need before you start crying out, before you understand the need for connection? What happens when all of our power goes down? What happens when we are not able to connect with one another and we haven't strategically set up any kinds of hubs in these areas? I'm not talking about church hubs. I'm talking about apostolic hubs in areas where people are like-minded, where they understand. Like in Goshen, listen, we got what we need. We ain't worried about that. We ain't worried about what people are doing because we have what we need. And that more people can even come into this space and we'll still, the world is talking about things like, there's a shortage on this and there's a shortage on that. Do you understand that the Father doesn't have a shortage on anything that he created? Those are lies to reel people into another system. Those are lies to control the minds of people and to create fear in people. Even this clip that I showed you, it's a way to create fear in people, like people that genuinely understand or desire. Like, I don't want to eat the food that people are genetically modifying right now. I don't want to eat the bioengineered food. Okay, I don't want to eat that. So they're saying this in their mind. That's the right thing to do concerning their body. But if they don't have a relationship with the Father, then they'll see something like this and just be completely destroyed. Oh, what do we do now? No, like, what do we do? Right? But as sons, we can come together and identify and deliberate and spread the word as to what the Father is saying concerning his kingdom. What is the verdict of our King concerning the age that we're living in? If you remember, Gideon was threshing wheat by the winepress. Why? Because they were overrun by their enemies. But I want you to know that's not a place that we stay in. The Father's going to redeem his sons. He's going to redeem us. He's going to restore us, I should say. It's our job to redeem time, but he's going to restore us. But that's if we put ourselves in the place of redeemers. If we're not redeeming the time, if we're not aware of the time, and making sure that we are calculating and numbering our days, making the best use of every day. If we're not doing that, how in the world is anybody going to be saved? How is anybody going to be safe concerning this age that we're living in? The adversary is raging. He knows his time is short, and he's going to do whatever he can to take as many people with him as possible. Do you hear me? He wants to take as many people with him as possible. That's what he wants to do. And so we've got to come to the space now where we understand that our unity is our power. Our unity is our power. That's our superpower. The superpower of sons is unity. It's the same thing that happened in the upper room on what they're calling the day of Pentecost, which is Shavuot. That happened in that day. Power was restored to the sons. Power was restored in the kingdom. It wasn't just individuals that were, no. Now I'm making power available to every son. Anybody that would become a son now has this same access, has this same power. It's not, oh, if you identify or you recognize or you've been authenticated or affirmed as this or that. No, but as a son, you have power. Are you listening to what I'm saying? As a son, you have power. All right. So the sons are called to the building of an ark in this hour. We're called to the building of an ark. That's what that leadership sessions is all about. We've got an ark to build. And I'm not talking about a physical ark. I'm talking about a spiritual ark that we've got to build in this hour. But we've got to be consistent because the rain is coming. The rain is coming. And the question is, what expectation do you have in this hour? Okay, because the ark is not going to build itself. And the rain is still coming, though. You understand what I'm saying? When we hear a word from the Father, we've got to begin to position ourselves. I was sharing this the other day, and I'll share it again, that we've got a lot of things really twisted up. And the reason they're twisted is because these systems that are man-made systems that have nothing to do with the kingdom of Yah have taken these concepts and they've turned them into something else. Remember, we were talking about this weeks ago. This conversation that the Father began with us. He said, I've given eternal things to my people. I've given my people eternal things that systems, man-made systems like church and politics and all of these other things, all these other different religions, different types of religion and doctrines, they've relegated eternal things, even witchcraft systems, they've relegated eternal things to their man-made concepts. Man-made concepts, you know? And so in that case, we're just basically getting crumbs. We're not getting the whole loaf. We're only getting crumbs. We're only getting pieces. We're only getting parts. When the Father's desire was for us to walk in the fullness of something. So we can no longer take the eternal things of the kingdom and relegate them to these man-made systems and think we're going to get something out of that. Nothing's going to come out of that. The view is going to be skewed. The perception is going to be skewed. And we're only going to get stuff that resembles crumbs. It might not even be crumbs. We're going to get an altered version of something. We're going to get an altered version of something. I really want to talk about this concept of our enemies and how that works and what we're to do and how we're supposed to move concerning our enemies. But the Father won't let me talk about it yet because folks ain't really ready. They're not really ready for that conversation. Okay, so we're gonna just stay focused. It's gonna come, but we gotta build for that. Okay, so the funny thing about this being consistent and understanding that we're building something as a body of believers is that nobody has to remind people the need for natural food. Okay, nobody ever has to remind people to eat. You know why? Because they feel the hunger pangs. They feel the hunger pangs. But funny to me that this generation is completely malnourished as it pertains to the things of Yah. Malnourished as it pertains to the words of Yah. Starving even, and can't even feel the pangs of hunger. You know why? Because there's so many other things satisfying. He said this, he said, man shall not live by bread alone. This is what the master said. This is how he spoke back to his enemy that was tempting him to step into another identity. That's a whole conversation in and of itself. The sons have been living in another identity. When the master provided the identity we were to live in, we've still been living in an alternate identity. Okay? And the Father's saying, I need my sons to come out of the alternate identity and come back into authentic identity. Because the master was able to say this to the enemy because he was authentically in his identity. He said, listen, man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out, that proceeds, goes forth out of the mouth of Yah. That's how I live. And this is why the master would often go off. You know, he would be there doing the job, doing the function, occupying, doing what he needed to do as a father in the earth to his disciples, his sons, right? To those that would follow him. But then he would go off to himself. Why is he going off to himself? Because it's easier for me to fast by myself than it is around a whole bunch of people all the time. But see, this is the thing. He would go and he would bring himself into a space of humility. And the reason why he understood that man lives by the words that proceed from the mouth of the Father is because he constantly put himself in this discipline where food was not his priority, but the Father became his priority. I'm going to say this. Miles Monroe said this many, many years ago, and it's such a powerful reawakening for sons if you are considering anything about fasting in this season, because the Father's calling us into those spaces. He's calling us into those places. But many people have not done the discipline in years past to even come into that space. You're going to have to do it. Listen, Miles Monroe said this. He said, fasting is not just the absence of food. I've said this before, but I love to hear it when it came out of his mouth. I just recently heard this. I had never heard this before. He said it's not just the absence of food. He said it's the absence of food and the food of the Father's word becoming the food that's necessary. Understanding that this is not just about me not eating. Fasting is not just about not eating. Fasting is about consuming something else as your food. Fasting is about consuming the Father's word in the place of what you would have been eating, in the times that you would have been eating. Okay, so most of y'all eat 3 meals a day, plus all the snacks that you eat. Listen, what if you hungered for the word like that in those 3 meals a day, in that particular time? You know, people always saying, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time for prayer. I don't have time for this or that, but you got time to eat every day. Why don't you kill one of those 3 meals and use that time to pray? Why don't you kill that and study the word? Why don't you kill that time, right? And totally committed to him. Why don't you offer that time to him, right? Because we don't feel the hunger pangs. We don't feel the spiritual hunger pangs of the absence of Yah in the earth. You know why? Because there's so many things to fill it. So many things to fill it. So many things that we're replacing it with. And so when I tell you this thing, this is exactly what people are doing every day. So it's not far-fetched for me to tell you, why don't you ice one of your snacks or your meals or whatever it is you do during the day and offer that time as an intimate time between you and the Father, and see what doesn't happen to you. See how the Father will do then. See what will come out of that. Oh yeah, I love him. If I had had the sense, I probably would have moved to the islands and he would have been my pastor. Okay, listen here. Where we are right now is like the days of Samuel. There's this phrase: the word of the Lord was not common in that day. What does that mean? It wasn't popular. It wasn't in abundance. Right? Because people were doing what was right in their own eyes. Eli's sons were running wild. Eli had lost his place. He was no longer giving the directives to those sons and to the people. He wasn't giving them what they needed in order to grow. He wasn't making sure that parameters were kept in place, that boundaries were kept in place. He just kind of sat down. He was overweight. He was just eating his life away. You know what he was doing? He was medicating, self-medicating. Okay, this is where we are, and I'm just going to self-medicate. This was his self-medication, just eating, and just growing. Why? Because I don't really want to address anything. If I address this, then that's gonna make me responsible for something. But I'm telling you, the Father wants to make the sons responsible for something. That's the garden life. That's that garden life, okay, where we are responsible for things. What's with this generation? We must have forgotten that the Father doesn't change, right? We can say a thing, and then when it isn't going the way that we want it to go, because we can hear, it's not always that people can't hear. That's not always the issue. The issue is that we'll say a thing that we've heard. It's in our spirit. We'll hear it. We'll say it. We'll pray it. We'll communicate it. But then when it doesn't go the way that we thought it was going to go or the way that we thought it should go, we break covenant. We begin to hide. We lie. We cheat. We duck. We dodge. Oh, but when trouble comes, we need something then. You know, I'm just baffled by this thing where people that are in these systems pray and ask for something, and then when it happens, they don't even make use of it. They don't even utilize it. They think it's common to them. You know why? Because how the Father sends stuff. You guys remember this scripture? Let me pull it up real quick. The Master told his sons, he told some of his disciples, he said, take no scrip or purse. Okay? I'm going to read this to you. Because see, our world has been turned upside down. Luke 10:4. I want you to go there really quickly. Luke 10:4. Our world has been turned upside down because we live in an age where people are, they're mesmerized by things. They idolize things. You hear what I'm saying? They are idol worshipers. They are idolaters. You know why I'm able to say that? Because if a thing doesn't appear to them to look a certain way, then they feel like, well, you know, it's carrying a lot. I believe that there's some potential there, but because I don't see the things, then I'm feeling like I need to not give as much attention. I heard somebody that I love many, many years ago say this to his people. He's a major leader right now. We grew up together. We sung together. We led worship together. We did a lot of things together back in the day. And in that season, I was anointed to him. Okay. But now he's grown into this space where he's even sold himself out in areas, right? He sold himself. Okay. And now he obtains or has attained all of this stuff. And I heard him say to his people in a message, he said, y'all, he said, don't believe broke prophets. I said, oh, that's so dangerous. That's so dangerous because a man that had nothing, he was wise. All he had was his wisdom. His wisdom saved the city. That poor man who had wisdom, his wisdom saved the whole city. I'm going to pull that verse up for you too. Did you get to Luke chapter 10, verse 4? I'm going to pull up this other one for you too. Poor man, his wisdom saved the city. It's in Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Ecclesiastes. I'm going to read you that, and then we're going to go to Luke chapter 10, verse 4 real quick. Okay? There was a strong king. A strong king came and mounted. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up. Let me pull it up. All right. Because I want to read it to you in context. Let's do this. Okay. So there was a small city with a few men. Let's start there. Small city. I want you to understand that. This was a small city, not a large city. I want you to understand that word. There was a small city. Okay? And I'm going to read this because this is wisdom. So let me go to verse 13 first. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. This is Solomon talking. He said, there was a little city, a few men within it, and there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Did you hear what I said? He by his wisdom delivered the city. I want to go back up to the top because we're going to be talking about some things, a few things here in just a moment. We're going to be talking about some things concerning what's happening in the world right now. We're going to discuss what jurisdiction and jurisprudence looks like, and we're going to discuss the reason why, as a son of Yah, you have to return. You have to remember. When I say remember, I'm telling you that the Father wants to awaken you to the remembrance of how you were formed, what the purpose of your unborn substance was. And then you're going to return to that so that you can execute the purpose by which you are a person. I'm going to read you this again because there will be many things that are mounted against the people in this hour. Darkness has mounted itself against mankind as a whole. Why? Because darkness wants its seed to prevail, and mankind is made in the image and likeness of Yah. So what is the adversary after? He's after the image, which is that is your representation of him, okay? He's after your likeness. That is the very nature of him, okay? And I gave you this word, icon. Put it on the screen. Icon. You are the icon of Yah. In other words, like the icons on your phone, you know, it's on the phone, but when you open it up, everything about that application comes to it's available to you. When you open up the application, you can navigate that thing in any way you need to navigate it to get to whatever you need to get to, but it's in the app. So the Father is the app. The icon is how you get access to what's in the app. Let me read this again to you. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 13. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. This is what Solomon said. He said, there was a little city and a few men in it. And there came a great king against it and besieged it and built great bulwarks against it. I wanted to just ponder on that. I'm going to put it in the room for you. I'm going to put this verse in the room for you. Yep. This is Ecclesiastes 9. 9:14. I think we're in 14. Yep. 9:14. I want you to see this. That's the beginning of it. Now you go and study this out, because I'm telling you, it's going to bless you. When you really get the revelation of what I'm saying to you, when you really get the revelation and the identity on these words. Great, a small city with few men. Great king. Small city, few men. It didn't even discuss the capacity of the men in the city, except for this one man who was poor but had great wisdom. The king besieged the city and built great bulwarks against it. That's what kings do. That's what king things do. They come into territories and they make that territory a part of their dominion. Kingdom. King's domain. That's what kings do. That's what these who think they are authorized in the earth to make subjects out of men are doing. As kings, they're besieging and building great bulwarks against the people, against cities, against states, against towns, against territories. But look at this. There was found in it a poor wise man. Huh? Are you hearing this? A poor wise man against a great king. And he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. Ain't that something? You see how important it was for him in that moment. He was necessary. He was necessary. He was necessary. Listen, without him, they would have been overrun. Look at this. Without him, they would have been overrun. They would have been overtaken. Yep. They would have been overtaken without him. People are running around thinking that what they need is money. Let me tell you something. Money was created by man. Okay? And money is a tool. However, none of the money in the world would have kept these people from being overrun, because that king had more resources. Do you hear me? That king had more resources than they had. He had more resources, and he had more hosts. He had more armies. He had more force. In the natural. Here's verse 16. It says, then said I, Now this is Solomon. He said, now look, I looked at this thing. This seemed really great unto me. And this is what happened. And then I thought to myself, wisdom is better than strength. Wow. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So even with the leadership sessions, if we just had a few wise sons, it doesn't need to be 50 of us. It doesn't need to be 1,000 of us. Just a few wise sons. Because even Solomon recognizes that wisdom is better than strength. Wisdom is better than monetary strength, and it's better than the other resources of strength, okay? Armies of strength. Doesn't mean that money is not necessary, that your economy is not a thing that the Father really wants to touch. Those are areas, though, that are really great areas. They're really great areas in a lot of spaces, but the Father desires to touch those areas. Why? Because he needs kingdom financiers. He needs that. He needs you to be a financier of the kingdom. You're not doing it to help. You know, like people have these ideas. Oh, let me help you. You know, like, no. This is a kingdom thing. Now, if you are assisting and advancing, you're advancing me, then that is helping the kingdom. But understand, if you relegate it down to, oh, I'm helping you, then you might think, oh, I have more than you, or my resources are greater than yours. No, it just means that you've been put in a position. I'm not supposed to carry the weight by myself. I was never supposed to carry the weight by myself. It takes those that understand how to advance kingdom to do the work. It takes those. That's a part of that body that's fitly joined. Everybody has their part. You might be a minister of finances. Do you know that the master, while he was walking in the earth, he had an army of women that were his financiers? You don't believe me? An army of women. I'm going to pull it up for you, because I want you to see it. Because y'all think this is a game. It's not a game. This is a real thing. And the reason why they were so adamant to make sure that he had what he needed was because they made sure he made sure they had what they needed. They were delivered. They were set free. They were constantly receiving bread from the Father, the words of the Father, the words of life. And in turn, they turned around and made sure he had what he needed in order to carry out what needed to be carried out. Now, listen, I want you to think about this, because he didn't need the money for food to buy for people, but he did have disciples. And that means he did have other responsibilities that needed to be handled. And without those responsibilities being handled, that could have potentially caused an issue. You know why some of these leaders have gone rogue? Why some of these people that might have been good people to begin with have gone rogue is because people did not support like they should have supported. So they sold out to darkness, because at least I got to have something if I'm going to do something, right? I got to have something if I'm going to do something. There's nothing wrong with having something. They need to have something. But this is why the Father put into place concerning the priests that Israel would provide. Because how you going to get something from somewhere consistently and never provide? I have people that have been following me for 8 or 9 years, never gave one dime to ministry, but will come on alive, come into my meetings and be like, you doing right. This is good. This is wonderful. But have never supported. What are we talking about? What's really going on? Go to Luke chapter 8. I want to show you this. Luke chapter 8. It talks about the master traveling from city and to villages, from one to another, spreading the good message of the kingdom of his Father. It says that 12 apostles were with him. By this time, 12 disciples were with him. Also, some women were with him that had been cured from evil spirits and various illnesses. These women were Mary, also called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out. Joanna, whose husband Chusa was Herod's administrator, Susanna, and many other women. They provided financial support for him and his disciples. Did you hear what I said? They provided financial support for him and his disciples. Wasn't I just telling you that these men left everything to follow him? Can you imagine them not being able to support their families while they're walking around with the master? Do you think that's what they were called to? No, not so. No, that's not what they were called to. So the Father made sure that because they followed, that there were those that would provide. Yep. We must not squander these spaces and these places that the Father's calling us to. I was listening to a young man, a little boy actually, this morning, as we were in this space of worship. I was listening to him and I had to literally, it's not that I don't pray, I do pray consistently, but there was a space that I have left. And I've been in this space several times, and I'm going to tell you something. When things impact you in a certain way, you have to be reminded to deal with that thing. You have to be reminded, because when you're impacted by something negatively, you'll leave it alone, right? But then the Father will give you, if you're careful, to identify what he wants. He'll give you the way to approach situations. There's something that the Father gave me as a little girl. I tell people all the time, my first gift was music, but my first assignment was prayer. And my assignment for prayer has never changed. However, there are areas that I need to go back to, that I need to really press into. And I'm going to encourage you to really press into these areas. But the little boy, as I was, standing there with his mother, and I was processing her through some spaces of deliverance, and he came over, and he's a prophet. He's a crying prophet, I promise you. He will cry out in a moment. He's so tender. He's so sensitive. I can't wait to see him continue to grow. I can't wait to see what his family lifestyle looks like, the family dynamic that he will create as a man. It's going to be so powerful as long as he maintains that sensitivity, right? And he's crying out. And one of the things that he was saying at the point, it was just him and I there hugging, and he was crying. And he was saying, I don't want my family to go to hell. I don't want your family to go to hell. He was really crying out. He had a position. He had this space and this place where he was crying out concerning his family. Listen, we can't squander deliverance or the concept of that concerning ourselves or the people that we love. I had to tell the people this morning, I said, how dare you think that you cannot be infiltrated? You can be infiltrated if you don't guard your gates. If you don't guard yourself, then whatever enters has access. What was wrong with people thinking, oh, I'm a Christian, I can't have a demon? Are you kidding me? You can call yourself whatever you want to call, but if your guard is down, guess what's going to happen? Access. If you allow yourself to be strong-armed, you allow yourself to rest on your laurels, and you don't identify the fact that you're going to need to put up, that there's a fortress. First of all, there's a hedge. There's a spiritual hedge around you. So I'm not telling you, you got to actually build the fortress. I'm telling you, you have to reinforce it. And the way that you reinforce, meaning you solidify the fact that there's a hedge, is because you're consistently in the relationship fortifying the hedge. You're fortifying it by the relationship with the Father, which the Master came to show us the way, to show us the truth, and show us the life. You hear what I'm saying? So I'm hearing this young boy, and in the passion of a move of heaven, he begins to cry out for his family. It took me back to my first assignment. Oh, the zeal of it, with less knowledge, just impassioned obedience. He doesn't have the knowledge that I have, but he has a zeal. He has a passion, and he's impassioned by obedience. I was able to give him direction, the language for what he was trying to say. But that's the gift of having lived that already and being in the space that I'm in. I'm able to now direct him. Remember, we talking about kinetic prayer, right? I'm able to direct him in another direction so that it's not just potential in his prayer, but it is actually moving and making impact. It's hitting a target. We got to get back to our zeal as sons. The place that the Father originally called us to, we got to get back to that. Because he was an infant in his understanding, right? But he was yet active. And believe me, Father hears babies. He hears babies. Father, remind us again what you want. Because we don't want to give you what you're not asking. Remind us again. Show us again. Tell us again. And you know, there are people who say, oh, well, he doesn't repeat himself. I don't know what father you serve. Because my daddy don't mind repeating himself. Matter of fact, he'll not only repeat himself, but he'll give clarity through various acts or things that happen around me. He'll direct me into a space. I won't even know that, this was an answer to something. I'll be directed into a space and the answer, the response, the reiteration of something will come again. Listen, y'all, it's easy to do if we don't make it a priority to know it. It's easy to do something that becomes a ritual, but we got to know it. It's easy to make it a ritual if we don't know. It's easy to make it that. No longer relationship. We go from that space that Abraham was in, what's next, Father, to just doing stuff. Just religiously doing things. Just coming up with it ourselves. Father, we repent for the times that we come up with it ourselves. We know that you've already forgiven, but we've turned from that thing. We've turned from that space. When I say we repent, I'm saying we've turned 180, not 360. We are doing a 180 in every area of our lives of anything that we have done in our own strength. Because we know that you desire a relationship. And that's an inner part thing. That's an inside job. That's not just external. It's not just the animation of us. It's the heart of us. You desire a relationship, Father. Just like a husband wants the comfort of knowing his wife, knowing his heart can safely trust in her. Our Father wants to trust us. That's why he reveals things to us, because he trusts us with it. Father, we want you to know us by name, as you did with Abraham. He said, I know Abraham by name because I know what he's going to do. He's going to teach his sons and his children's children. He's going to teach them. He understood the value of relationship with you, Father. And we want to understand you like that. We want to understand that value. We want to be in that space where we're able to leave a place of comfort for you. Because you know what? Prayer is not always comfortable, y'all. It's not a comfortable place. It's a beautiful space once you get in it. But you got to get out of your zone to get in his zone. And oftentimes when people are engaged in the space of prayer, when they get tired, they stop praying. What you don't understand is that when you get exhausted, you've exhausted all your strength. Now you can only operate in his. I'm going to say it one more time. Don't get weary in doing well, because in due season you'll reap if you faint not. When you get exhausted in your own strength, that means you've come to the end of your strength, and now you only have his strength to operate in. Yeah, you're going to get into space offering thanksgiving. You're going to enter his gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with praise. Absolutely. You're going to be thankful. You're going to do all of those things. You're going to step into that space with conversations and all of those things. But when you get exhausted, understand you're going into another gear. First of all, you're going to come to the table with what he wants. Come on. Say, I'm bringing what he wants. I'm bringing what he wants. I'm not bringing what I want him to have. I'm bringing what he wants. Show us you, Father. Abraham left a place of comfort. He had what he needed. He had something. He wasn't his substance. He wasn't void of substance. He had that. He left a place of comfort and settled a settled place and went on a search for something. Are y'all hearing me? Yeah, you could be settled in a space because the Father's allowed you to arrive in some spaces. That's great, but you can't settle there. You've got to be willing to continue the journey of exploration and searching and inquiry and asking and seeking and knocking. Why? Because there are doors. There are doors that you must enter. Doors. Let's talk about this for a hot second. Divine jurisprudence and jurisdiction. Let's look at this. Jurisprudence is a legal system. It's literally the knowledge of the law or the skill of the law. Knowledge, the science of a thing. Remember we were talking about the theory, skill, and application. This is what jurisprudence is. It's about the knowledge of the law. Now, do you know that so many people have left from the knowledge of the law of Yah? All kinds of people are dealing in spiritual things outside of the law of Yah. Yes, spiritual things is founded in him, yet they're taking the knowledge that they have and they're perverting the knowledge of the law of Yah, the skill of that law, the application of that law for another. This is why the sons have to remember in order to return. And we want to have some more in-depth conversations about some things, because I keep saying this to you, and I'm really not tired of saying it in this season. I really am not. And it may sound strange to religious ears, but to believing ears, we have clarity. The reason why I keep sharing the things that I'm sharing with you and saying the things that I'm saying to you is because I need you to understand that the Father desires for you to take your rightful place in the earth. See, the witches, the warlocks, the soothsayers, all of these different people, they are in unauthorized spaces. They're taking the law, the skill of that law, the knowledge of that law, and they're applying, it's all twisted, it's perverted, and they're applying it in ways that rule over man. They're doing all of the things, all of the application of things, but for the purpose that he never intended. He said, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air. In other words, have dominion. He said, I've given you dominion over everything that I've created. That means the heavens, the first heavens, I've given you dominion over. This is why Joshua was able to tell the sun, be still, and moon, you follow it. Because you know, if the sun stops moving, the moon got to stop too. You do know that, right? This is why Joshua was able to do that. Because he knows he's tapped into his dominion. He understands. See, Joshua saw some things. Joshua saw Moshe extend a rod over waters or towards the waters, and the waters parted. Are you listening to me? Joshua saw them fight battles against military forces that were mightier than them. He saw them get into territories that they didn't even have to lift a finger to fight physically. There were battles that they literally did not physically fight, but spiritually they fought. Their obedience caused them to overturn a region. I was listening to that this morning. Listening to the word of the Lord in Joshua, and looking at this battle of Jericho. I almost want to go there. Let's go there real quick because I want y'all to see this, because if you just listen to what people tell you about stories, then you'll be lost. I'm going to tell you what the ongoing conversation is about Jericho, but we're going to read it. Joshua chapter 6. I want you to go there really quickly. Because if you've heard this story any length of time, any number of times, you may have heard that they went around the city and they were quiet for those 7 days, those first 6 days, right? I need you to hear this. So I'm going to read it to you, just so we can be clear. Because this is what takes us from potential to kinetic energy. In prayer and in every other space in our life, having the knowledge. Remember, we were on this conversation. Ignorance is an enemy of destiny. We're going to go to the next one. But ignorance is an I thing. I, right? If you choose to stay ignorant, you choose to stay in the space of me, I, right? When you need to let that go so that you can get to more. You got to let that go to get to more. What you don't know is what you need to know in order to go where you're going. Look at this, Joshua chapter 6. Now Jericho was straightly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. Let's start with that. Let's start right there. We're talking about these strategy sessions. We're talking about the Father providing for his children. We're talking about that reinforcement of the hedge. We've talked about in Ecclesiastes the fact that this king sets up this ambushment against the people, this bulwark. He comes against them strongly. But this poor wise man delivers the city. We talked about that. Look at this. It says, now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. No one went out and nobody came in. In other words, when they saw them, understand they've already heard. They've already heard. Can I tell you something? The enemy already knows that we are in the earth. The enemy already knows that there are divergents in the earth. He already knows the sons of Yah exist. They're going to make you think that they're after the Christians. They don't care about that. They'll wipe them out. That's not a problem for them. They're after the sons of Yah. Why? Because it's us that have the DNA of God. We have Yah's DNA. On a cellular level, we've been changed if we are sons. Do you remember the adversary wanted to fight over Moshe's body? Why do you think he wanted a dead body? Because he understood that on a cellular level, Moshe is something else than just mankind. He's not just mere man. On a cellular level, his DNA, everything about him. He said, if I could get a hold of that DNA, I could make something else out of that. If I could get a hold of that DNA, I could do something with that. Are you hearing me? Look at this. They shut up the city. Remember I was telling y'all about watching. I think when we originally started out, we began to have conversation about being on the wall and what that looks like, about what it looks like to man the gates of a city. Right? I talked about that a little bit yesterday as well in the spaces that I was in, about the fact that, listen, ain't no blood going to be on my hands. I'm going to blow the trumpet. I'm going to sound the alarm. You might be frustrated as hell when you hear me because you like Ahab. But see, that's another spirit though. See, if you feel like that, you've got another spirit. Because who don't want to know that something is coming? Who don't want to know how to get in position when something is coming? But somebody that wants to be ignorant. Jericho shut the city straight up. They said, no. Why? Because there were watchers on the wall. Where are the watchmen on the wall? Where are the watchmen, the sons of Yah, that are deemed watchers for the walls of the city of the people of God? They're sleeping. They don't understand the value. Let me tell you something. The Father brought me from this space He brought me from this space. I thought it was a powerful space then because it was one of those areas that I had caught something. I had not necessarily been taught it. It might have been a combination of taught and caught. But this thought about 24-hour prayer, not necessary. You know why? Because when the city is alive, when the gates are awake, when we're awake, the adversary's not coming through gates in broad daylight. Did you hear what I said? He's not coming through no city in broad daylight. He's a creeper. So how do you think that you're going to watch the city all day long? You're watching in vain. We be watching in vain. It's not necessary. But in these hours, these are the crucial hours. There are 4 watches during this time of the evening. During this time of the evening to the morning. These are the crucial hours. Till about noon maybe of the next day. But 24 hours, we'd be in vain. Just wasting energy. No, it doesn't mean you can't pray during those times of hours. You can pray anytime you feel. You can be in that space, but prayer is a lifestyle. But I'm saying, if you think that you're making impact in the part of the day when the enemy is not even considering. He wants to do what he's doing in the night, in the dark. We're invading darkness when we're in these spaces. When we're in this time, we're invading darkness. Whatever the plans of darkness are, we're putting the monkey wrench in the plan because yes, things are going to happen. But as it pertains to the sons of Yah, it's not happening for us. It's not happening against us because we're becoming aware of the enemy's tactics. You know why? So that we can go back and shout it out. This is the enemy's tactics. Hey, these are the enemy's tactics. We began on this journey and I had people in a room in a session and we were going over some things, looking at the enemy's tactics. It's a display. They've given it to us. There's no confusion. It's no confusion. They're telling us what it is. It's no confusion. They're letting us know. This is what it is. No, we're so brazen about our position, we're going to tell you what we're doing. Because we've already had our meetings. And things are already in play. So when you hear it, we're already doing it. It's already in motion. Are you listening? I hope you're getting this. It's already in motion. So we're not worried about you hearing it now because we've already put it into play. My God. Jurisdiction. Let's look at that. Let's look at jurisdiction. I meant to put that in the room too. Let's define it. We're going to go into it a little further on Wednesday and Friday. Jurisdiction is the official power to make legal decisions and judgments. Did you hear what I said? So we've got jurisprudence, which is the acknowledgement of the law that needs to be applied. Now we've got jurisdiction, which is the official power to make the legal decisions and judgments. So look at this. I want you to look at this. The Father's calling us to divine jurisdiction and jurisprudence. So it really should be reversed. I didn't put it in any definite order, but jurisdiction first, because that's the official power to make the judgments and the decisions. That's what he's given the sons. I'm going to put it in the room for you. I'm going to put it in the room. The official power to make legal decisions and judgments. Sons have been authorized. We've been authorized to do what we're doing. Do you understand that? We've been authorized to do what we're doing. And the Father has an expectation that we will do based on what he's given us. Listen, he's not given any of us more than what we can handle. People love to throw that verse around. He won't give us more than we can bear. Understand that. He will not give you more than you have the capacity to do something with. So if he gave you something and you do nothing with it, that's why he becomes an enemy to you. An enemy in your health, an enemy in your economy, an enemy in your relationships, an enemy in any facet of your life. You'll make him an enemy to you. Why? Because I gave you something and you don't do anything with it. And because you do nothing with it, these are the outcomes of sitting on the fact that I've given you a resource that could potentially, or perpetually is the word I'm looking for, that could perpetuate something in your life. I'm the resource, and I've given you that resource that could perpetuate something in your life. But if you don't understand that you have official power to make legal decisions and judgments, because you remember that we're seated in heavenly places, far above principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places and rulers of the darkness of this world. You remember that, right? If you forget that, then you'll become lawless. If you forget that, then you'll become lawless. And you'll be as they were in this phrase in Proverbs 21. Every way of man was right in his own eyes. Do you understand that? That's the age that we live in. I want to show you some more clips before I get off. That's the age that we live in. We live in an age where people think that their ways are right. But understand, it's the Father that's weighing the heart of the matter. Proverbs 21:2. This is what the children of Israel did. Their ways seemed right to them. The word says that every man did what was right in his own eyes. It's in Judges chapter 21. In those days, there was no king in Israel. No, there were judges. Remember? There were judges. People that the Father authorized. Remember, I talked to you about jurisdiction? Jurisdiction also has a lot to do with the area, with the territory. When we're talking about jurisdiction in law, that deals with a territory. You ever heard somebody say that's out of your jurisdiction? That means based on the territory that you rule from, you can't cover this. Can I tell you a secret? I'm gonna tell you a secret. Y'all lean in. I'm gonna tell you this secret. Most of what we deal with in the systems of law in our land is out of their jurisdiction. Did you hear me? Most of the things that are dealt with by statutes and laws in the land that we live in are out of the jurisdiction of those that claim to be officials over it. You heard that, right? Well, because we don't understand jurisdiction. We don't understand jurisprudence. We don't understand our position in the earth. And we don't search things out. See, these things didn't just show up. There were things that the Father talked to me about. And because he began to open up a dialogue or a discussion, I began to search out some things. And in searching out those things, I arrived in places I would have never imagined that I would have arrived in. That led me to understand something, that this God that they're talking about is not relegated to that building. I knew this as a little girl. He's not relegated to this building. By 15 or 16, he's giving me concepts that I was like, what am I going to do with this? My mind is blown. I was born and raised in the church. I felt like Moshe. I literally felt like Moshe. I had to leave the space only to come back and tell you, this is the way to freedom. That's what I'm telling you. This is the way to freedom. It doesn't mean that he won't allow you to go into some spaces, but I'm telling you, your freedom's not in that space. The reason you're going into that space is to deliver those that are in that system, to bring them into a kingdom system, to bring them into a kingdom reality. I'll fight for the kingdom. Long live the kingdom. eternally live the kingdom, because that's what's going to be eternal. Systems of this world are not going to be eternal. The king's domain is what has come, and his will is what's going to be done. Can I tell you something? If that system worked, if it worked, then you would have found yourself there. You would have found the answers there. But the fact that you didn't find the answers there, and that you walked year after year after year in that space, not knowing the things that were coming into your mind, because the Father wanted to talk to you about things. But because you went back into this environment, the adversary killed the conversation. I've heard this repetitively over decades. I've heard this conversation of people. The Father was calling me to a thing, and then I went to church. He told me to do something, but then I went to church. I'm not just making this up. This is stuff that I've heard. The Father will have given somebody specific orders, but they thought that order was connected to the church. A apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist. Those are not church gifts. You're not a pastor because you have a building. You're a pastor because you shepherd people. The system has it all skewed. And if you live by that system, you'll die by it. Lawlessness is the new pandemic. Did you hear what I said? Because we refuse the law of Yah, we don't identify our jurisdiction, and therefore identify the jurisdiction of our adversary, because the adversary has no jurisdiction where we have it. Hello? He has no jurisdiction where we have it. Didn't I tell you that we've been given authority over all of the powers of darkness? Do you remember the conversation that the master had when he was resurrected from the grave? He said, all power. He said, all power, not some of it. He said, listen, I'm resetting you. Matthew chapter 28, verse 18. He said, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. I don't know if you got that. He said, listen, y'all, I retrieved it for us. I took one for the team. I took one for the team. I'm the firstborn of many sons, and I took one for the team. We got it back, y'all. We got it back. Lawlessness is the new pandemic. Man does what's right in his own eyes. And the subtleties of darkness. We can see what we don't do, but not what we do as an issue. I'm going to say that again so you can get that. I'm going to talk about the subtleties of darkness. We can see what we don't do, because it's easy for you to say, oh, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't have illicit sex, I don't, it's easy for you to see what you don't do. But can you see what you do? Can the Holy Spirit bring to your attention something without you being defensive? Can the Holy Spirit bring something? Can the Father say something to you without you taking offense to it, but understanding that if it proceeded from his mouth, then it was out of his love that he spoke it to you? Do you know that the word of the Lord declares that the Father chastens sons? Those whom he loves, he chastens them. Why? Because he wants them to be in alignment. He wants them to be properly aligned, because he's sharing his power with them. So I need you to be aligned so that I can share my power with you, so that you can make impact in the earth. But if you're not in alignment, then, and I'm sharing my power with you, then it's often that you're going to misuse. You're going to abnormally use this power that I've given you. So we can see what we don't do, but not what we do as an issue. That's something to ponder. I want to. Did we look at this other verse that I brought up, that I made a point of? I don't know if we looked at that. I don't know if we looked at it. Let me go back, because we were talking about the conquest of Jericho. I want to go back there too. But I mentioned something else. I did talk about the women. I feel like I mentioned something else. Elder Vicky, do you remember another verse that I mentioned? Did I cover it? Maybe I covered it. Oh, you know what I didn't cover? No, I did. I feel like I didn't cover something, but it's okay. We'll come back to it. It'll come back up. I can assure you that. Let's go back to Joshua. Let's go back to Joshua real quick, because I want you to see this thing before I show you a couple more things that we're going to close out this morning. Joshua chapter 6, it says that Jericho was straightly shut up. In other words, they closed the gates. They saw them and they said, close, make sure. So this wasn't in the night that they came. You understand? They came, and when Jericho saw them, they closed the city down. Said, shut it down. And Yah said to Joshua, look at this. I've given it into your hand. See, you think because the gate was closed that they've not been turned over. You think that they're protected. No. See, that's why I said we got to have some conversations about what to do with adversaries, what to do with the enemies of Yah and adversaries of us. He said, I've given it into your hand, and the king thereof. And the mighty men of valor. Didn't we just see something about a king instituting something and setting up something against this small city? Right? Here we go again. He said, I've given them into your hands, starting with the king. And then his backup. And this is what he told him to do. I want you to surround the city. Go around the city. He said, compass the city. Compass the city. Go round about it, in other words. Go around it. Okay? Enclose it. I love that word. It describes an enclosure. So yeah, the gates are shut, but you're surrounded. Put in the chat, you're surrounded. Is this conversation? Come out. You've been surrounded, okay? Come out. You've been surrounded. Oh my God. Compass the city, surround it. Oh my God. That's so good. He says surrounded. Oh, let's go back. This is a part of strategy. How do you overcome a territory? How do you overcome a thing? You surround it. It's a position that you have to put yourself in before you begin to resound. Remember what I told you about the Father? Let's go back to the beginning. When he's recreating, he allows his spirit to hover over the waters before he begins to resound, to declare a thing. Before sound is released, before that divine sound is released to create a situation, he hovers over the space before he starts to create. These people were instructed to surround the city. All men of war, go around the city once. So every day, once a day, for 6 days, they were to go around the city. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horn. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, All the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. So this is what Joshua did. He called the priests, and he said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of Yah. So when I'm saying to you that though they were not physically communicating, there was communication going on. Because I want you to remember something, that when Joshua sends in the spies, Rahab says to him, the city is terrified. We know that we've been given over to you. They hadn't said nothing yet. No, it's your position. It's your posture. See, the fact that you're surrounding the city says that you're getting ready to close in on us. The fact that you're surrounding the city says that there's a confidence and a courage in you to know that we belong to you. Let me tell you something. This is something you're going to have to do with your young people, with your grandchildren. It's something you're going to have to do. This is something that you're going to have to do with your youth leaders, parents. You're going to have to surround their city. You know, the Bible talks about men as cities. Yep. But one without walls is a dangerous city. It's a city that's subject to being overthrown easily. This is why we got to build the walls back up around our children. We got to teach them the importance of walls, of boundaries. This age of children don't have enough boundaries. It says here, verse 6, and Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of Yah. And he said unto the people, pass on and compass the city, surround it, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of Yah. This is the only time. I want you to understand something. You know, you hear people say things, and we think that, remember I was telling you, we can't, it's not a one-off. It's not a one-size-fits-all every time. To not go ahead of the Father just simply means to not go ahead of his instruction. But if you see in this instance, there are times when nobody was supposed to go before the ark because they didn't know where they were going, right? But now send the military before the ark. Not military as in terms of the swords and the shields, but in terms of the trumpets of ram's horn. Those that are the announcers. This is a force. The sound is a military force. You remember we were talking about this in the scripture the other day, how those 4 lepers were sitting there and they deliberated amongst themselves and they said, you know what, we got a strategy. What we're not going to do is sit here and die. So that's what we're not going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to get up from here and we're going to make a move. And when they began to move, because they were operating in faith, the word of the Lord declares that the sound of their feet were making the sound of an army, of a force, of a military force. And the people in that city fled and left all of their stuff. The Syrians left everything. They ain't take nothing. They fled for their lives. You hear what I'm saying? They fled for their lives because they thought they were being overtaken. They thought their territory was being ambushed by a larger army than them. So they said, listen, our lives are more important than our stuff. Oh my, I'm not even going to go there. Sometimes we don't get that our lives are more important to the Father than our stuff. We concerned about the stuff, and we ain't concerned about our life. What it connects us to, none of that. We're not concerned about any of that. We're just concerned about the stuff. And the Father's saying, if I got to separate you from everything you own, he's done it, and he'll do it. If I got to separate you from the stuff to get your attention, I'll do it. Look at this. And it came to pass, I'm in verse 8 of Joshua 6. When Joshua had spoke unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before Yah and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of Yah followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets. Look, okay, now we got the armed men going in front of them. And the rearward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day that I bid you shout. Then ye shall shout. So the ark of Yah compassed the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of Yah. And 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of Yah went on continually and blew with trumpets. Are you hearing this? And the armed men went before them, but the rearward came after the ark of Yah, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did this 6 days. So remember, I told you it wasn't quiet. There's the second part of it, wasn't quiet. The priests were blowing with the trumpets. The military went in front of the priests, and the ark of Yah came up behind it. That was a message to that territory. That was a message. Look at this. They did this 7 days. It says, in the second day they compassed the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days, and it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day. You hear me? That's just about when we coming out of prayer, when we coming out of this time. And most of the things that militarily took place happened during this time. I'm telling you that this is the space. So even when we're not doing this at this hour, I'm telling you, we'll be in this vein somewhere, because this is the space that we need to establish bulwarks against our enemy. This is the space. That hour between 9 and really like 6 a.m. in the morning, 9 to 6, 9 to 6 in the morning, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's an hour of bulwarks being established against enemies. I hope you're getting this. So get ready to be up. I mean, it may not be this long and it may not be this particular hour. I don't know what the Father wants to do, but I know one thing: we can't afford to sleep. At the crucial times of the day, we can't afford to sleep. At the time when darkness is putting its plan together, we cannot afford to sleep. We've had seasons of rest. I'm telling you, we have had those seasons. And it's not that we're not resting now, but we're entering into the rest of Yah. That's a whole nother situation. Entering into his rest doesn't just have to do with sleep and not doing things. Entering into his rest simply means that we're no longer doing things in our own strength. Hello? We're not doing it in our strength. See, the children of Israel in this scenario, they've entered into the rest of Yah. All they're doing is following his instructions, and they're about to overtake another territory, just simply following his instructions. They're not going and trying to scale the wall. They're not going and, throwing bombs over the wall. They're not trying to create a stir in the city in order to gain access. No, they're not trying to break down the gates in this situation. No. They're simply following his instruction. That's entering into the rest. It don't have nothing to do with sleep. Do you know I have not lost any sleep since I've been doing this at 3 a.m. in the morning? Yes, I've gotten a little sleep. And like today, I went to sleep before I got on. That doesn't happen all the time. Some days when I'm doing this, I'm literally going from the full schedule of the day into this space and then going to sleep for 1 or 2 hours and then getting up and finishing my day and haven't missed a beat. The Father knows how to give us what we need in order to accomplish what he's called us to. The problem is we're so beholden to the time, chronological time, and the order, systemic order of things, the world's order of how things are done, right? That when the Father calls us into something, we actually measure what he told us by what the world is saying. As if that's a thing. If he said be up and be in prayer, as if it's a thing. I got to go to work in the morning. As if that's a thing to him. He didn't ask you what you had to do. He told you what you need to do. So you don't think that he'll sustain you? You think that he would call you to a space make you lose your ability or your capacity to function in the way that you need to function in order to do what you need to do? Because he called you to a space that's taking something away from you. Seemed like to me you would think the opposite. No, if he woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, he want me to pray till 5, and I got to go to work at 8. That means I need to go to bed early because I need to get a little sleep because he's calling me into a space. I'm excited. What are we about to do? What's getting ready to happen? That ought to be your position. Oh, what does he want from me? He's moving me around. I don't necessarily like the way this feels. I don't like the way this looks, but I know he's the one doing the movement. What's about to happen? Right? I'm not disappointed because I realize I'm in an appointment. We got to get ourselves together. We got to get ourselves together for real. It says this. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they arose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. So understand, remember the other days they went around once. Okay? The priests blew the trumpets, the military went before them, and the rampart behind them. Okay? This time they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for Yah have given you the city. Now, the gates weren't open yet. The wall hadn't fallen yet, but they're doing something before they see something. Oh, this is the thing. This is what kinetic looks like. It looks like we're doing something having not seen the physical nature of it yet, the physical manifestation of it, but in our mind, because see, I can imagine that Joshua has already imagined this in his head several times over. I bet you he didn't see it like it happened though, but I bet you he had something in his imagination about this thing happening, about it going down based on how the Father had moved before. Oh, I've seen this. I know I got an idea of what this might look like. I'm gonna play some scenarios, right? Remember we were talking about this the other day about how Elijah goes down and he sits. You know, he sends his servant to go tell Ahab it's about to rain. Okay, the famine is over. You need to get yourself in your chariot and get up out of here before you can't get out of here, before the mud slides and all of that stuff. He said, go and get yourself together. And he sends the servant to go down to the water. But he goes up to the mount. He goes up to Mount Carmel and he sits down and he puts his head in between his knees. What's he doing? He's meditating on the word that he was given. What does meditation look like? See, I'm telling you, we got to take these things back because we got people sitting in spaces. They calling their meditation clearing their mind. No, I'm not going to clear my mind. I got something on my mind. See, that's not right. That's not how that works. I need to have something on my mind if I'm meditating. Well, then what do we start with? We meditate on the word. So what did Elijah meditate on? He meditated on the word of Yah. The Father said it's going to rain. He had that word in his mind. He went to the mount. He put his head between his knees and he began to imagine the rain. He said, I can see the rain. I can smell the rain. He's saying this within himself. I have an idea of rain again. I haven't seen rain in 3 years, but I remember what it looks like, and I remember how it starts. And so I'm going to put my head in between my knees, and I'm going to begin to manifest the thing that I'm hearing. If it was at his word that no dew or no rain would come, then it would be at his word that it would return. And if it's at his word, then he would have to have some kind of manifestation in order to prove that the rain was coming. So he sends his servant and he came back and said, I don't see none. He said, go 7 times. Go back 7 times. And when he came back, he finally realized, no, there's a cloud the size of a man's hand. I hear you know what? I love this word that Elijah originated with. He said, I hear the sound of the abundance of rain. Ain't no cloud in the sky. Ain't nothing nowhere. He said, I hear the sound of the abundance of rain. Where is he hearing this sound from? He's hearing it from in his spirit, man. He's hearing it from the conversation that the Father has spoken to him. When the Father said it's getting ready to rain, he began to hear the sound of rain. Come on now. When the Father tells you something, can you hear the sound of it? When the Father tells you you're going to have a baby, can you hear the sound of it? If he tells you you're not going to lack, can you see what that looks like? Come on now. I love it. He said the seventh day they did what they did before. This time they did it 7 times. And it came to pass the 7th time, when the priest blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for Yah hath given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it, and all that are therein to Yah. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. That's a whole conversation right there. Because if you're beholden to a system, can I tell you what some things are going to look like in the days to come? This is why the Father has to build these hubs, because sometimes even the people that you're related to are not going to be good for you to be around. I know that sounds so sad, doesn't it? But it's a real thing, because they won't hide you. They'll give you up in order for a piece of bread. Hello? You better hear what I'm saying to you. If you don't properly connect in this season, I know I've been telling these people about these connections for the longest, Elder Vicky. They've heard me, but they haven't heard me. I'm telling you, your connections matter, because there's coming a season that the thing that you think you got to hold on to is going to give you up for a slice of bread. Just like Esau did. For a pot of lentils, he sold his birthright. Rahab hid the spies, and because she hid the spies, she entered into the lineage of the Mashiach. Do you hear me? A harlot. He said, listen, and ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing. This is Joshua 6:18. Lest ye make yourselves accursed. When you take of the accursed thing and make the camp of Israel curse and trouble it. I want to pick back up on that when we come back, because there's something in there I want to share about the accursed thing, because we got a lot of that going on in the world right now. The accursed things, they're real. Anyway, the city's walls fell flat and they overcame that city. I'm going to show you guys a couple of things. I think I'm going to be able to show it to you, because let me tell you something. When I tell you the adversary don't want certain things to be seen, he don't want certain things to be known. I have a program that will allow me to download the videos that I want to share with you. So I would much rather put them in the studio, right? But the problem with that is, it seems like some of these things, because we got this, we live in a season where people, the powers that think they be, will put in a room. This is not a fact, make you check the facts. So this is false information and all of that. So all of the videos that I wanted to download that I'm getting ready to share with you now, which I don't think I'm going to share all of them, but these that I'm getting ready to share with you now were not downloadable. Like the program wouldn't download. It was blowing my mind. I'm like, why won't it download it? Everything else downloaded. Why won't this download? It don't make sense, but it makes sense. If you understand what I'm saying. It don't make sense, but it makes sense. So I want to show you something, because we've been dealing with some things in our private sessions, and I want to just kind of let you in on a little bit of that real quickly. And I'm going to see if I can share this with you, and then we're going to get off. I got a couple of things I want to share. I don't know that I'll share them all tonight, but I want to at least share a few of them. And let's go ahead and do that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put it in the room for you. Sharing screen. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm coming. I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to make sure that it's on the screen. Yeah, okay. I need to take that out of this window. That's what I need to do. There we go. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Intergovernmental. Okay, so what we have here, let me see if I can stop it in here. Hold on. Oh, okay, so we went from the Great Reset. I need you guys to write these words down because you need to understand what the reset is. The reset is the economic portion of things. The economy is what has to be reset. All right? Economy and religion has to be reset. This other thing, the great segmentation, is a whole nother situation, but they work hand in hand. So we need the reset in order to segment things. Okay? I need you to pay attention. Write notes if you can. Y'all forgive the commercials. That wasn't a part of the thing today. But let's go back. And you guys forgive me. I am going to definitely get my YouTube bread back because commercials I can live without, especially if I can't download these videos that I'm trying to download. I don't want those commercials to come up while we're working, but we're going to get over that today. Political, social, and ecological and institutional crisis. Now, first of all, ignorance, because we don't say and except for when we're getting ready to add the last thing, but political, social, ecological, and institutional crises. Okay? Write them down. Political crises. See, if you don't understand that there's a political crisis, then you'll get tied up in all of these things that are happening politically, and you'll be trying to pick sides, not understanding what's really going on. Now, while I don't ascribe to any side, I do recognize that there are some things going on that are crises right now. There are some things going on, and you'll see, if I could share these other things, I'll have to see. Maybe I won't be able to share them today. I'm gonna focus on these, but there are some clips that I want to share with you as well that show you a couple of things about happenings, okay, that have to do with these political crises. But go ahead, I'm gonna let you listen to this. Okay, now I know I'm not the only person that heard that. I am certain that you heard what he said. He said we're going to need to deal with the deep systemic and structural restructuring. He said we need to do world reconstruction. We need to restructure the structure that is existing. Did you hear that? All right. I just want to make sure that you comprehending what he's saying now. Hmm. Wow. I'm going to say this really quickly because we're about to wrap it up. When we're dealing with, and I hope you guys can hear me. I hope the music is not too loud because I do turn up the music while we're doing those pieces because we are under fair use. However, we need to make sure we have things in place where the actual video is not alone playing. It's not just, you couldn't hear what I was saying again. You can't hear what they're saying. That's interesting. Okay. You couldn't hear what it is saying. Okay, let me see something. Let me see something. Very interesting that you can't hear it because I played something else and you could hear it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time to figure that out. When we come back Wednesday, we will start with that, okay, so that we understand this jurisdiction and this jurisprudence and our position and what their position is as it is opposed to our position. We'll start with that on Wednesday. Yeah, I'm going to have to figure that out because you should be able. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to hear. Kay is sharing a window. Okay, let me try something else. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try this one more time because I actually want to share this video. So give me a second. If whoever that is, so that might be my daughter, texted me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on something else just because I want to play it so badly. Okay, so give me a second. I'm going to see if I can play it another way. You could see the movement of the people, but you could not hear it. Is that what you're saying? Could you see them moving? Let me know if you could see them moving. Okay. I'm going to try to, because that's just a share screen situation. Some screens let you share audio. Look for the share audio checkbox on the next window. Okay, hold on 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. We might be able to get this done. It didn't give an option to share the audio. Okay. Like I said, we'll come back. We'll come back. Elder, you're saying yes to you could see the movement. But when I hit that button, you couldn't hear it again, right? So what we'll do is we'll come back. I'll figure this out. I'll figure out how to get it. Okay. Okay, well, we'll figure that out. Like I said, there were some things that I wanted to show you, but were unable to show you because it almost seems like there's some kind of parameters around these particular videos. So we'll bypass those parameters. I'll get this information to you guys. We'll do it Wednesday and we'll come back to this. What I want to establish with you is to set up the understanding that this son of perdition is what we're dealing with. So we got to get away from this lawless place. What I mean when I say lawlessness is I'm talking about this place where we think that what we are doing is the most important thing to be done. And what the Father desires to be done, we don't see any value in that, right? And so we go on our way doing our own thing until we get in a space. And then when we get in that space, then we're crying out. What the Father wants to do is to put us ahead of the curve in this season, okay? And he wants us to be aware of our enemy's devices so that we're prepared. We're prepared because we're coming together and we're sharing what the Father has given to us in the secret place. We're prepared because we're coming together and we're going out and we're making disciples of men. So that means we're creating hubs and we're creating environments where people can come to. This is a kingdom thing. It is not a church thing, because the buildings are not going to be the thing in this new season. It's not. I'm sorry to tell you this. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people because they're still invested in that and not in the kingdom momentum, okay? And so it's a lot of things that you just can't say to people because, you know, I'll tell you this. I remember in my first marriage, I remember standing outside of those double doors, and I remember my whole life flashed before me. I saw a lot of things. I didn't see everything that happened to me, but when I say my life flashed before me, I understood that this was, I won't say I understood it. I saw a life that I didn't really want to live. That's what I'm going to say to you. Okay. But because I didn't have the wisdom of that moment, I wasn't able to make the decision. Okay, I know I got on this dress. I know everybody got dressed up and came out. I know I sent out invitations. I know I got cake in the back. I know we're going to go eat. I know we're going to have a reception. I know all of this. I didn't have the wisdom to step into that room, go down the aisle and say, listen, I have an announcement to make. I know this is what we set out to do here today. However, due to some unforeseen circumstances, due to some information that I didn't anticipate was going to come to be, I'm calling this off. You know, we get in a space and see, this is how the enemy does son. This is how he does people. This is how he does mankind, because mankind is motivated by pride, by its pride. Unregenerated man is motivated by pride. Let me be clear. The unregenerate nature of man is motivated by pride. Okay? And it has many facets. Okay? But listen to this. Once we step into a space and we go through all the when we go through all the things that we go through, all the processes and all the things that it takes to put something together, right? We don't want to come back and say, I was wrong. See, that would make sense, because that would mean that we're able to follow what the Father is saying no matter what it looks like. But because we're more impressed on what we look like, or we're more impressed with impressing people, then we care what we look like instead of caring what the kingdom looks like if we do this way. You understand what I'm saying? So in my ignorance, I wasn't able to come to terms with that. But in my maturity, after I've been through all that I've been through, if I had to come to that, it would be that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm so thankful that I don't have to come to that in this season, because I'm wiser in my picking. I'm wiser in my choosing. And when I say picking, I'm not saying I'm picking a husband. I'm saying I'm wiser in what I accept, because a husband finds a wife. Okay? But what I accept as a wife is what's going to define my life. Okay? So even though a husband finds a wife, the wife decides whether she wants that man to be her husband. Hello? All right. So you can't tell people these kind of things unless you really, you know, it get real sticky in these kind of situations. It get real sticky. You know why? Because people don't want to be told no. They just don't want to be told no. I'm telling you, we've got to come to the place where we're willing to identify the Father's no to things. We got to be able to identify his no. Because in that is how we're going to walk out the kingdom that we're carrying. That's how we're going to walk it out. This kingdom that we're carrying is only going to be walked out when we are able to accept the Father's divine no. to the things that we want to do, to the things that we like, to the things that we feel like are necessary. Okay? So I'm going to work this out. I'm going to come back on Wednesday. We're going to open up with these things. I'm going to share quite a few things. We're going to go back into some of the things that we have discussed, a couple of things that we have discussed anyway. But we'll go back into those things. And I want you to invite somebody, share it. I'm going to let people know way ahead of time. I shouldn't have to wake y'all up. So if you see in the replay, know that I'm talking about you. Yes, I am. I shouldn't have to wake you up for you to be here. You're going to have to want something in this season. And I can't want it for you more than you want it for yourself. If you think that you can put things on hold when the Father's connected you in a place, if you think that you can, then I'm encouraging you to continue to do it, because it's going to get to a point where you keep doing it that way. Remember Pharaoh, he hardened his heart. You say, oh, well, I'm not hardening my heart. Yes, that's a form of heart hardening. I don't want to do it that way. I want my sleep over what the Father has called me to. If he called you to it from the beginning, he's still calling you to it now. It's not about your convenience. It's about your covenant. Okay? So if you continue to harden yourself in this space, then you'll get to a space where the Father does it for you. And then you won't be able to get back into the space. You'll have no more desire for it. That's how the adversary does. He'll keep encouraging you to harden yourself to the things of Yah. The word said, harden not your heart, as those sons did in the day of provocation. There's a word I used to give my sons and daughters in a season. I'm telling you, listen, I'm saying it loud for the nosebleed section, elder, because you know. Listen, 3 a.m. It is what it is. It's what he's called us to. You don't get to say, I'm a son and I'm gonna do what I want to do. Those two things don't go hand in hand. I'm sorry. They just don't go together. They don't go together. So here's the thing. I told my children for a whole year. My daughter will tell you it was beyond that year, but I remember that year specifically. I kept telling them, there were things that I was training them in, and things that I was talking to them about for things that were to come. And I said this that whole season, whatever you do, don't be like the children of Israel. I said it every day for the whole year, several times a day. Whatever you do, don't be like the children of Israel. Why? Because the word says, don't harden your heart like in the day of provocation. They provoked the Father 10 times in the wilderness. 10. We'll talk about that number 10 on Wednesday. They provoked him 10 times. They provoked him to the point where he didn't want nothing else to do with them. I'm telling you. I know it seems harsh, but this is serious. And this goes to anybody else. If you have a God-ordained leader, he might just let you pass by. He might just let you pass by, because listen, he'll speak through whomever he needs to speak through. He might let you pass by this space just to prove to you that your leader ain't crazy. Hello? He might allow you to listen to my things because I am not outside of where your leader is. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm talking about kingdom leaders now, because we're all on the same page. I can promise you that. Every kingdom leader is on this page. We're in the same space. Okay, we're not prophesying cars and houses right now. Although the Father said build, he said, listen, occupy till I come. He said that, all right? He said, I need you to do trade and commerce. But he didn't say, I need you to make a whole bunch of investment in things, in stuff. Stuff is added. That's added stuff, okay? Listen to this. It's all about being loyal to the Father. That's all it's about. He's going to find out who belongs to him. He uses these kind of things to find out where you really are. Come on. Do you really want him? Because do you know, on the topic of fame, elder, I don't think people understand just how close I've been to a lot of things. But when people don't really know you like that, then they don't understand what you processed through, right? They don't understand the people that you've known and that you know. They don't understand the access that you have to different industries, right? They don't understand your access, okay? They don't understand what you turned down in other seasons and what you're walking into in this season. They don't understand that. So they think, oh, well, because you're not on this level as far as what I see. Now, in the spirit, I'm on the level I need to be on. In the spirit, I'm a big deal. In the heavens, I'm a big deal. In the earth, I'm a big deal. And in darkness, I'm a big deal. Now, I might not be on your major platforms currently, but people on major platforms have acknowledged me, but they don't make room for me. Hello? People on large platforms acknowledge me. People that are connected to people with large platforms acknowledge me, but they don't make space for me. That says something. It says a whole lot. I'm going to turn y'all loose. Listen, I love y'all. The body is not a me thing. It's a we thing. Take this time serious. Don't take it lightly. Take it seriously, okay? Because just in a few days, when I say in a few days, I mean just a few days. It's some stuff that's going to break out in this world, and it's already happening all around us. We're going to talk about some of the things, some of the videos I wanted to share, and that I now realize are not playing for you guys on this side. We're going to get into some things. You know, it's bad even when the children are like, Apostle, please talk to us about aliens. Talk to us. What is this that we're looking at? What are we facing? The children want to know. But grown-ups are just sitting back like, oh, it's no big deal. You know, we've watched the movies. This is just all a hoax. It's all a joke. Okay. If you don't know what you're facing, then you will be subject to whatever is done. You'll be a subject. You'll become a subject. Okay. I love y'all. I'm getting off of here. I'm going to get me some sleep and get ready for the rest of my day. We have seized the day in this moment. Things have been exposed. And we're going to step into the day anew. Right? I love you guys. Peace to your house. Listen, share the video, like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word. We want to make sure that we listen, our next goal right now is 5,000 watch hours. We need 5,000 watch hours. What does that mean? I need you to watch the videos more than once. I need you to go and watch videos, and I need you to share the videos with people. I don't care. Guess what? I don't care if they don't watch the whole video. Just start sharing videos with people. Because we need watch hours. So I need the people that can watch these videos and watch more than one video, like, share, and subscribe. Because we need these watch hours to position us to be clearer to other people that need to see us. I need to get in that space where, the tarot cards are popping up. I need to get in that space where, witches are trying to give you your fortune. I need to get in that space where people can hear a word and realize, listen, they're operating in an authority that was originally given, just not authentically operating. Yes, so the supernatural realm is real, right? But you got to operate from a divine place, because any other place is going to put you in the space you don't want to be in ultimately. All right. I love y'all. Peace to your house. We will see you on Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. Don't forget, the body is not a me thing. It's a we thing. Love you more. Peace.